If you're spending too much time trying to generate sales opportunities for your business, you will like the 7 automations I'm going to show you in this video today that can actually put lead generation on autopilot and save you a lot of time. These are the exact automations that we use in all of our companies to generate millions of leads every single month, book a ton of appointments, and overall save the time from 6 full-time positions. And for some context, we have helped already over 350 other companies implement these exact systems. And not only that, we are also certified instantly, SmartLead, and Clay partners. Now, my goal is that by the end of this video, you know exactly how to take these automations, implement them in your business, or have someone else implement them for you, because I'm going to detail how they're put together, and then already start saving time and booking some more meetings. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. I'll go ahead and I'll share my screen. The first thing I'm going to show you is the most impactful automation, in my opinion, if you're doing cold outbound, which is a waterfall enrichment automation. It's the idea that you want to get data from a lot of vendors instead of a single vendor. You want to create this domino effect of, if I'm not able to find the data I want on the companies that I want or leads that I want from one vendor, I'll just use all of the other vendors at the same time as well. Now, there are ways that you can do that with tools that are automated, or you can automate yourself and, of course, save a lot of money by doing so. So I'm going to show you both ways today. I'll tell you a tool that does this for you, and I'll tell you how you could automate this yourself, and show you, I'll pull back the curtains and show you the exact automation that we run in our company in order to get this data. Now, before I do so, I just want to tell you the pros and the cons of doing so. And then we're going to take a look in the back end. So the pros are very simple. You're going to maximize data coverage, meaning you're not going to get half-baked profiles anymore. I don't know if you're relying on tools such as Apollo, ZoomInfo, or Crunchbase, but a lot of times these tools will store data that they've gathered a few years before, or sometimes even months before, but they're not as fresh anymore, right? And so one thing that you will maximize if you're using a lot of vendors at the same time and waterfall enriching is the chances of you getting recent data, fresh data. So that's one of the pros of running automation. The other one is, of course, you're going to automatically catch what single source tools would otherwise miss. Even if you're using some of the best tools out there, such as ZoomInfo, which in our opinion is a fantastic tool, you may be missing out on a lot of data points that you could otherwise get by using different vendors. And the last thing is this scales very beautifully and very cost effectively if you use a tool such as N8N in your backend. If you don't know what N8N is, it's very simple. It is an automation tool that runs on no code or low code if you want to, and it doesn't charge you per record. It charges per run. Or if you self-deploy, it doesn't charge you at all. So for example, in our companies, we have self-deployed an N8N server, which all that means is we bought a computer, a server, we deployed the N8N system on it, and then we now run the automations on it. And all we pay is for the server, which never ever, even for millions of records, costs us more than $100 a month. So definitely something to consider if you're running that amount of volume and if you're scraping that much data every single month. Now, let's talk about some of the cons. The number one is not really that big of a con, but I thought I'd mention is that you will have to do some thinking and testing before you can actually deploy this. And the reason for that is very simple. Different industries have different vendors that provide better data. For example, if you're in e-commerce, you are more likely to find better data if you're using tools such as Apollo. But if you're in the SaaS industry, you're more likely to find better data if you're using Crunchbase, for example. And so the order of the vendors will change on the industry that you're in. If you want to know what I would recommend for your company, I'll welcome you to drop a comment down below of your industry and offer, and I will tell you the tools that I would choose in that specific case for the waterfall enrichment. So just let me know. You're welcome to do that. Now, recommended tech stack, no matter which vendors you're using, in my opinion, is going to be N8N, and you could possibly consider Clay for this as well if you're running HTTP requests. HTTP requests are simply requests you can make from inside Clay. They go directly into the API, meaning the backend of the tool that you want to use, the vendor you want to use, and it gets the data back. That is a more cost-effective way to run it in Clay. Now, if you don't know what Clay is a powerful spreadsheet, as I like to call it, where you are able to take every column and make it be a different tool, execute a different function. Now, for now, if that confused you already, because I already mentioned a lot of tools, don't worry about it. I'm going to break down the difference between all of these automation tools in a second. But just for the sake of talking about waterfall enrichment, let's stick to it, and then we come back to this, okay? So recommended tech stack would be N8N. And I want to put an important note that we actually modify the vendors that we use very often based on industry and overall results. We don't have a single vendor that consistently deliver the best results. We keep actually on changing all the time. And if you want to know my current tech stack for this, just drop a comment down below or send me a DM. I'm happy to share that with you. Not a problem at all. So now let's get a little bit more nitty gritty. Let's get into the implementation of this. And to get started, I'll actually want to show you the process, and then I'm going to show you how it's done. So the process is very simple. First, we're going to gather the data. Gathering the data means that we're going to either find the companies or find the people that we want to waterfall enrich emails from. You can waterfall enrich the way you find companies. You can waterfall enrich the way you find people. And you can waterfall enrich the way that you find contacts. That would be phone numbers or that would be emails. In this video, I'll show you specifically how you find emails, how you waterfall enrich emails, but you could apply the exact same principles to any type of waterfall enrichment, whether it's company, people, or data. Once again. So the process is always going to be the same. In the automation, you're going to first gather the data. So let's say in this case, I have already gathered the people that I want to get an email for. And then I'm going to check if I have the data ready to be used, meaning, for example, if I'm going to do a waterfall enrichment of emails, I want to make sure that I have a LinkedIn URL or I have the company domain and the position title of who I want to enrich. So that is checking if the data is ready to be used. Then I'm going to check if the data is already used, meaning I already have an email, and I'll check if this email is good or if it's not, and then I still need to enrich nonetheless. Then I'm going to create output fields with an automation. This would be in my spreadsheet where I'd be outputting all of this data. And then I'm going to split in batches. This is the concept of running everything on a machine gun instead of running it in a cannon. You're going to see that with like practically in a second, but it's pretty much that we want to run pieces of data bits by bits so that we don't overwhelm the whole system, get everything to crash and collapse right in front of our faces. Once again, this is very hard to visualize before I show you, but it's important that you kind of know what these things are before I show them to you. So we're going to split them in batches. Then we're going to process the automation, the actual waterfall enrichment. We're then going to save the progress in batches, again, bits by bits, so we don't overwhelm the system, we don't get everything to crash. We're going to notify ourselves once done. And as a bonus, something I'm going to show you as well, we're going to have error handlers. So if there is a problem, the automation solves the problem for you or notifies and reports to you along the way. And when I say you, it could be you, the founder, owner, CEO, etc., or it could be your team that is actually running this machine for you. So without further ado, let me stop talking about these principal things and let me show you what it would look like instead. So here's one example. This is our waterfall enrichment automation, and it has 3 different modules. Module 1 is our machine gun. Module 2 is the operations. This is our ops in the field getting things done. And module 3 is our sub ops executing tasks in the backend. What does this actually mean? Very simple. Remember how I said that first we're going to gather the data. So we're going to trigger this automation, and then we're going to gather the data. For us, that means that we're going to check the record on Airtable to confirm that this is what we are extracting. This is where our users also trigger the automation. And by users, I mean our team. Then it's going to go in the Google Sheet where it already has the LinkedIn profiles or domains and position titles that we want to waterfall enrich. And then based on that, it will check if the data is good. So first thing it's going to check is if we have the right columns. If not, it's going to notify us on Slack, notify our front end through Postgres. Postgres is just a database, right? So it's a database that doesn't have an API limit. What it means is that I can send unlimited updates in there, and it will show in real time for my front end user what is going on. Don't worry about this. This is getting very advanced. This is the part that you actually mentally skip. But we have this error handler here in case we don't have the columns in the spreadsheet that are ready to be processed. Then what we're going to do from here is we're going to check. This is the first filter. Filter number 1 is going to be, do we already have the input? Meaning, on the columns that we have, do we have the data that we need to trigger this automation? And if so, only keep the ones that do have the data, and the ones that don't are skipped. Then we're going to have another check to make sure that we didn't run on this data yet. What is the benefit of doing that? It is that you can trigger again and again and again the same automation on the same list without burning extra credits on rows that you have already run. Now, if this is hard for you to visualize, I completely understand that. And I'll be honest with you, this is something I wouldn't be able to cover in a video like this one unless I would make it 4 hours long, because I'm going to show you 7 automations until the end of this video. So if you want to see me opening every single one of these nodes, building this right in front of your own eyes, please go ahead and comment down below automation, mention the name of the automation that you want to learn, and I'm happy to make a video just showing exactly the step-by-step of how I would set that up myself. So let me know. But in this video, I'm not going to open any of the nodes. That is not my goal. My goal is to show you the overall structure, show you the tools so that you can go ahead and either put a team in place to implement this for you, or implement it yourself, or contact me if you want help with that. So we filter the input, filter whether it has or doesn't have outputs, and only keep the ones that don't have output. Then I have a quick note for my system, which means that if either or of these filters is empty, meaning we don't have the input or we have all of the outputs, it will notify my front-end user, notify me on Slack, and stop the automation. So this is just an error handler already. So it wouldn't pretend like it's running when it's not. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create the columns on Google Sheets if they don't exist yet. So if I don't yet have columns for the output, I'm going to create them. So this is what it's doing, and it's notifying the front-end user that it has created those columns. And then I'm going to start my machine gun. Remember I mentioned that you can run automations in a machine gun mode or in a cannon mode? I like to run them in machine gun mode, which is that I'm going to split things in batches. So I'm going to shoot 30 bullets at a time, and I'm going to let it rest. Then I'm going to shoot 30 bullets at a time and let it rest. I'm not going to just shoot, let's say, millions of bullets all at once like it was a cannon. This was this huge ball of gunpowder. That's not what I'm going to do. And the reason for that is so I don't overwhelm my servers and I don't overwhelm my automations. And in case there is an issue, I can stop it at 30 bullets at a time instead of a million bullets at once. In case perhaps you had the wrong API key in there, or perhaps you put the wrong information in, etc. So this is just a safety measure and a management of capacity measure. So now that I have started my machine gun, it's going to shoot everything to another flow. The other flow is this flow I'm going to show you in a second. Don't worry about it just yet. But it's going to shoot it there where it's going to process the waterfall enrichment for me. Once it's processed for the 30 bullets that I shot, it will then bring back the information and it will save it in Google Sheets. Why am I doing it that way? Very simple. Google Sheets has an API limit that's quite rigid. It doesn't allow you to write a lot of data very quickly for very long. And so therefore, what I want to do is I want to shoot 30 bullets, comprime everything in one big ball of gunpowder, and then put in Google Sheets. So then it's where I want to save my bullets. I don't want to just keep shooting, because then I'll hit a bunch of API limits and it will limit the amount of data I can process fast. So that's just a note. And then for every 30 bullets shot, I will have a notification to my front-end user that 30 rows were processed already. Very simple. Once this is all done and it has looped over all of my data, meaning it has shot all of the bullets, it will then update my Airtable that this row has completed, and then it will notify me on Slack, and it will notify the front-end user that this is done. So this is the beginning of this automation. This is our base, okay? Now let's understand what happens behind the scenes on the waterfall enrichment process. So on the waterfall enrichment process, it's going to be very simple. You will receive that trigger. So every time that I shoot something at this API endpoint, it will trigger this automation right here. First thing it's going to check is if the email is available already. If it is, I'm going to validate it. Is it valid? Is it invalid? Is it catch-all? If you don't know what that means, I can link a video down below that will explain that in a lot of depth in case you're new to Code Outbound and you want to learn more about it. If not, still stick with me. It's still going to make a lot of sense what I'm going to show you, even if you don't understand what email validation is. But first thing I'm going to do is, if I already have an email in my spreadsheet for whatever reason and it's not marked as valid, is I'm going to check if it is valid. If it is not, I'm going to go to the first vendor. If it is valid, I'm going to stop it here and I'm going to go to my next bullet, which would be another email or perhaps another person to enrich. From here, what's going to happen is, if I did not find an email or if the email was invalid, I'm going to check on my first vendor. In this case, Prospeo. So Prospeo is just a data vendor that provides emails at a very cost-efficient amount. Again, it might not be the first one in my waterfall enrichment process in a few days, and that's okay. If you want to know my current tech stack, again, comment down below. I'm happy to tell you. But anyways, this is the first one that we're using right now. So first thing, we check on Prospeo. And remember I mentioned that you want to have error handlers? This is where you want to have them. So if I ran out of funds on Prospeo, I don't want to necessarily stop my bullets from going out. I still want them to go through. So if I don't have funds in Prospeo, what's going to happen is it's not going to stop the automation. It will just skip Prospeo, and that's fine. That is an error handler. I'm teaching the automation what to do in case something fails, and this is what it would do. Now, if it did go through, it would then check if the email that Prospeo found was invalid or not by sending it to MillionVerifier. Remember I told you there would be underground ops operating in this machine? Here's the underground op. This is an HTTP request to another automation that I have that all it has to do is check if the email is valid with MillionVerifier. It will check it there and it will return the stat. Okay? And again, it has an error handler. If it fails, it will run again. And if it fails because of lack of funding, then it will stop the automation because then nothing will run in the first place. Unless I would have another tool to check. But that's having error handlers within error handlers within error handlers. And to be honest, we don't have that problem with MillionVerifier, so I didn't create that. But let's continue. And so it ran into MillionVerifier from the email I got from Prospeo. If it now found a valid email, it stops the bullet. It says, hey, it reached the target, sends it back to the Google Sheet, and the data is enriched. If it didn't find, now it goes to the next vendor. In this case, FindyMail, and the same process repeats. Same thing happens again and again and again. And from there, it would go into LeadMagic, and then after it finished LeadMagic, it would finish. Now, this is our standard waterfall enrichment automation. It's the one that we use as a generic one whenever we don't know the industry, because whenever we do know the industry that we are enriching for one of our clients, we're going to use a specific waterfall enrichment tool that we have created, just in order to use the best vendors for that industry. Again, if you want to know what are the best vendors for your industry, feel free to comment down below. I'm happy to tell you the ones that I would recommend. But this is, in a nutshell, how we would create a waterfall enrichment automation in N8N. Again, if you want to see the backend and me building this in front of your eyes, step by step, let me know. I'll be happy to record a video on that. But I need to know if this is actually interesting for you guys. This is just the first automation. Now, I also told you that if you didn't want to build this yourself, I would recommend a tool that already does this for you. And the tool is BetterContacts.Rocks. You can put that on Google. You'll find this tool. They do waterfall enrichment, if I remember correctly, for up to 15 vendors. That might change. Keep that in mind. And so they are a tool that I would recommend that you consider instead if you don't want to build all of this. And you know what's interesting? That tool is probably cheaper than you having the database that you currently have. And so it makes it very effective for you to use it. So without further ado, let's get over to the next step. So that was the first automation. I hope you got a lot of value from that already. The next thing is I want to just give you a few tips as you have your team create these for you or you create these yourself, which is what are some pro tips on how to build the whole thing. First is selecting the right automation platform, if any at all. Okay, so I'll break down the 4 major automation platforms that we use that are not with code. These are all no code or low code platforms. And I'll tell you also a consideration against just not using any of them and just using a platform that already does this for you so you don't have to create anything or troubleshoot anything. So first of all, N8N, this is the one I showed you. The main benefit of N8N is that you can process large amounts of data for very cheap and using no code or very low code. The only downside to N8N is perhaps the complexity of deploying it yourself in your own server, which is what we recommend, and perhaps troubleshooting it if you don't have that much knowledge on it. I'll give you a tip on how you can troubleshoot things in N8N in a second. This is coming next, but that is yet a downside of using N8N. The next platform would be Make. Make is a fantastic platform. It's extremely stable. It runs on their servers. You cannot self-deploy Make. It's very easy to use. It has a lot of integrations with tools. Tools don't tend to get disconnected from Make, which saves you from troubleshooting time. And it's pretty good in that sense. Now, the only downside to Make, in my opinion, is it has some limitation when it comes to adding code. If you ever want to add code yourself, you have to sometimes do it through integrations to other platforms like AWS Lambda. If that doesn't make sense to you, don't even worry about it. But if you're a coder, you know what I'm referring to. So that is one of the downsides. And the other downside is pricing. It doesn't scale as beautifully as N8N would because it would charge you still per run and per scenario run time. And so that's just something to keep in mind if you are planning on using Make. But it is a very stable platform. Now, the next one, which perhaps will be the favorite from anyone operating on enterprise level, it's Zapier. Zapier is a very stable platform. I don't have any stability issues with Zapier ever. It's extremely easy to delegate to anyone in your team. They will easily know what's going on just by clicking a few buttons, and it has explanations all along the way. It has AI to help you understand what it means, and it has AI to help you build things in there. So it's very easy to use, easy to delegate. But the only problem is that pricing doesn't really scale that well. They charge you per run, they charge you per each step that was run, and so that can add up very quickly. But again, if you're enterprise, you might just want that because you want more stability than cost saving. So that is my consideration on Zapier. The next one is a tool that I like personally a lot, and we are certified partners with, which is Clay. Clay is extremely efficient, if not the most efficient way to do this whole process. It's fairly easy to delegate. It's quite simple to understand once you get a gist of how the columns work and how they operate different tools. But the only thing that might be a downside, depending on your budget, would be the pricing, right? That would be, it may not really scale well because it will charge you per credit depending on how you're setting up Clay. Now, there is ways you could set it up that would make it more cost efficient, but overall, that is the only consideration with Clay. Otherwise, it's a fantastic tool and I strongly recommend it. And as I told you, I would also compare all of this to just using a tool like BetterContacts that I mentioned before that would just do all of this for you. So you don't have to create anything. You just sign up, plug in your list, and get the final output. And so the consideration there is that it is a bit more expensive depending how you're setting it up, but it is more stable. So also consider that option. And I'll also be giving you along the way an option that will help you figure out what tool would that be that you could be using to accomplish the same thing as building the automation in the backend. We like to build things in the backend just to have more control over them and control the cost as well. Now, let me give you some key principles that are quite important when it comes to building automations like a pro. Number one is dividing big functions into different flows and splitting things in small batches. Remember, you want to have a machine gun and shoot one fire at a time, or batches of fires, right? Or bursts of bullets, but you don't want to have cannons that just blow everything up and have the potential of crashing your servers or overall making mistakes be very expensive. So divide big functions into different flows like I showed you in N8N before. Next, I strongly suggest that you check out the GPT I'm going to recommend below. It wasn't developed by me, but it's something I use very often, which is a GPT that was trained, and there is one for every tool, by the way, but this specific one was trained on how N8N works and on their documentation and API backends. And it's very able and apt to help you figure out how to troubleshoot whatever error you're facing. So I strongly recommend that whenever you're troubleshooting automations or even building them, that you use this GPT to assist you. You can give it screenshots of where you're stuck. You can give it context as to what happened, and it will help you troubleshoot from there. And it does that very effectively. The next one is always build things to scale. Ideally deploy your own server for N8N, if you're talking about N8N specifically. And the way that we do it nowadays, this is the current tech stack, is through Vultr plus Ubuntu as the OS system, the operational system. So if you want to know what we're doing in the future, again, you know the way is just shoot a comment down below and I'm happy to tell you. But overall, just keep in mind that whenever you're self-deploying, you do have the risk of your serving having an issue, but overall you save a lot of cost from self-deploying because it's using your own resources instead of the resources of the tool's backend. So that helps. And the last thing is related to AI, which is something we're going to talk a lot about today, which is always develop and test your AI prompts in the playground and not in the chat mode. So for example, if you're using OpenAI, ChatGPT, you don't want to go on the chat where everyone else is using it because then it's going to have its settings set to standard or default. But instead, you want to search on Google, OpenAI ChatGPT Playground, where you can actually tweak the backend settings, such as the temperature, how creative it would be, or the top P, meaning how many options you would consider before responding, and etc. So there is more wiggle room when you develop it in the backend, and it's easier to translate that and that prompt towards your automations after. Okay? So these are a few bonus things that I want to mention. Let's continue. The next thing is, the next automation I would recommend you building is an AI-powered personalization machine at scale. So if you think about it, your SDRs, I bet, can't write good, like talk about good, 100 personalized lines a day for 100 leads. They just can't. It takes too much time, too much research. Doesn't make sense, right? But this automation here can, and I'll show you how it works. It can write fully personalized lines, generated and backstopped automatically. So the process for this is very simple. Again, data collection, AI processing, line generation, and a fallback system, which is the pro move, right? We talked about fallback systems already. What we use for the processing here is going to be GPT-4o, depending on the industry, or Anthropic Claude, depending on the industry again. For example, GPT-4o tends to be better when reaching out to enterprise accounts, and Anthropic Claude tends to be better when reaching out to e-commerce brands. So again, if you want to know which AI to use for industry, you know what to do. Comment down below. But before I actually show you the automation, I will again show you the steps, how we would do it for this one. And it's going to start with gathering data, like we talked about. Then we're going to summarize the data points with AI. Pay attention, this is going to get interesting now. Most people don't know you should do all of these steps, and that's why they have crappy personalized lines. But you're going to summarize the key data points that you got. Then you're going to reason with AI over the best data points of that summary. Then you're going to write personalized lines based on your offer and context. That is how you choose which ones are actually good. And because you're a pro, you're always going to have a fallback. You always have a plan B. If the personalized line comes out pretty bad, it will just output a generic line instead. That will not hurt your reputation. And this is something I want to mention here as well. You do not want to add a bad personalized line just for the sake of adding a personalized line to your code outbound. So keep in mind that your output is only going to be as good as the input and the source of where you're scraping. Okay. And you need to always have a fallback line. It's extremely important. So without further ado, let me tell you the tool that we use to run this on and how it was set up. The tool in this case is going to be Clay. And now you get an idea of what Clay looks like. It's this mega spreadsheet right here. And each column has a different function. Some columns are tools, and that's when they have the play button next to the column name. And others are just information. That's when they don't have the play button next to them. So for example, in here, I'm starting from the domain and the LinkedIn URL of the person that I want to generate a personalized line for. And I'm going to do it in the process I mentioned. I'm going to first gather the data. Then I'm going to summarize the data. Then I'm going to reason over this data. And then I'm going to write a personalized line. So first, I'm scraping the data from the website. I'm scraping from the homepage. I'm scraping from the about page. I'm scraping from the case study page, from the content page. And then I'm going to summarize everything. What am I scraping from these pages? Very simple. I'm just looking for things that are companies they worked with, looking for interesting facts about their companies, interesting news about their companies, anything I could find on their website that would make a good personalized line. Right? And I'm just having Clay go to the page, extract everything, AI summarize it, and then I'm going to have AI reason over it. So it summarize everything, then it's going to reason which one is the best and generate personalized lines. But I don't stop there. From here, I already did this on the website, and now I'm going to do it on the person's LinkedIn. I'm going to get their whole LinkedIn profile, all of the data about them that is available on LinkedIn, then all of the data available about their companies that are mentioned on LinkedIn, and then I'm going to again summarize everything, create a personalized line. Right? Then I'm going to go further. I'm going to look at all of the news that are out there about their companies. I'm going to look if they're currently recruiting any roles that are related to what I sell. So for example, if I sell ads, I'll be looking if they're recruiting for media buyers. That might make a better personalized line than any of the others they could have gotten otherwise. So I'm going to check for that. And then again, ChatGPT is going to create all of these lines for you. If I'm going a bit too fast, don't worry about it. This is intentional. I'm actually just giving you an overview. If you want to see the backend creation of these tables and me opening each of these and showing you the prompts and all of those things, comment down below. I'm happy to record a video specifically about each of these. It's going to be probably 30, 40 minutes long, where I'm going to explain in a lot of depth how I created the prompts, how I tested them, what are the best settings with the prompts, how do you train these AIs, and etc. But right now, I'm just giving you an idea of what it looks like. So up to this point, we got now the person's enrichment, the website enrichment, the company enrichment, job board enrichment, and news enrichment. Last thing I'm going to do is see if they have any podcasts available. I'm going to get the transcript of the podcast, and then I'm going to be done. Then I'm going to have AI reason over everything I got, rank what are the top features that they found based on what's more relevant to my offer, the thing that I'm trying to sell them, and then I'm going to have it write the personalized line. And that's how you create fantastic personalized lines. Now, if this sounds like a lot of steps to you and sounds very expensive, I can guarantee you it is not if you're setting up the right way, which again, I could record a video on that. But I just want to give you an idea of how you create this automation, how much time it can save you, and how much it can improve your booked appointment rate. Because the main thing is, not only you're going to book more appointments, but you're going to book more qualified appointments and appointments that actually have higher intent when they show up on the call. They show up on the call already thinking about how it might work for them, instead of showing up on the call thinking, oh, let's just see if this person is about it, right? And this is the power of having good personalized lines. Now, let's move on. The next automation is going to be your stealth bomber email machine. And this isn't your average spammy tech stack. We are actually talking about deliverability, warm-up, reply management, everything built into a system that feels human at scale. It sends emails that feel human. No, it doesn't sell newsletters, for example, or email marketing stuff. By the way, if you are running email marketing, this is not advice for you. This is for cold outbound wraps, okay? So the tools that I recommend are Instant AI and SmartLead AI if you're looking to send things at scale. Why do I mention both tools? Is because I like both and I have both for all of our clients in our companies. Just for the sake of diversification, if everyone has a problem, use the other. ETC, I like to use both. And I'm friends in real life with the founders of both of these tools, and they're both great people. And so those are the two tools I recommend. Which one should you choose? Perhaps diversify like me, or else just look at which one of the two interfaces you like the most. In terms of features, both are very similar. So that's not something I would worry too much about. If you want, by the way, to see a video on how to use these tools, I have already posted them in this channel. Just check the link down below. I'll put it in the description for sure. So you can see a full breakdown of how I use this to send emails. But they will first send emails automatically for you. Two, they will allow you to spin syntax your emails, which means that you can make every email sent out look unique, which increases the chances of you not getting flagged as a cold emailer. Extremely important. These tools will manage the warm-up. These tools will allow you to respond to every prospect in one place, no matter how many inboxes you have added to them. So all in all, they will save you a lot of time and they will make your sales reps a lot happier if you're sending good content with the two previous automations that I just showed you. And the next one is if you're this sniper. So the reason why I have this photo here on the side is because one is running an automatic rifle and the other one has a sniper. And the automatic rifle is like using Instantly and SmartLead. You're just sending emails in bulk, right? Although you can personalize them, you're sending in bulk. Now, if you're going to be extremely precise and you want to cause as much damage as possible precisely at once, I recommend that you use Charge for Outlook. This is your sniper. So if you're spending a lot of time crafting emails that look very unique and you want the absolute best deliverability, Charge for Outlook will send emails out of your inbox's interface, which will overall get somewhat of a higher reply rate than Instantly or SmartLead. So that's the closest that you get from being very human in your sending. Okay. So that's just a recommendation as well. And definitely want to make sure you check out the other videos in my channel where I show you how all of these work. I'm not going to go into too much depth here, but definitely an automation that you want to have implemented. And no, this is one that I would not suggest that you set up on N8N unless you're using a backend such as MailGun. If you don't know what MailGun is, check it out. They have a very good backend. They don't really allow cold emailers in their platform unless you really know what you're doing, but thought I'd mention in case you're very advanced. Let's get to the next one. Never write the same message twice and make sure there is spin syntaxing every email you send out. So you want to be creating AI crafted messaging variations that keep you out of the spam box and inside the buying conversation. And you do that by rotating your content and writing very good emails and perhaps including the personalized lines you create with automation number 2. So this is like having a copywriter who never sleeps and never gets lazy. I'll tell you why it works. And then I'm going to show you how. So why? Spin syntax is a deliverability cheat code. It makes every single email you send out look unique. If you don't know what it is, check out the video that I recommended down below on how to use Instant AI and SmartLead AI. It will show you exactly how it works. But overall, it's just a trick to make every single email sent out look unique by rotating the words inside of it. So for example, instead of just saying hello, first name in every email, you could say hello, hi, hey, first name in every email. So you just rotate what you're sending. And lastly, in terms of the backend, ChatGPT 4.0 plus Make is equal a wicked fast personalization at scale of email content. Not only personalized lines, email content. So process overview is going to be an automated script generation machine with variations to prevent repetitive messaging and improve personalization across campaigns. Recommend tech stack is Make and ChatGPT 4.0. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like. And here we have it. So this one is actually very simple. All it does is it has a webhook that comes from Airtable. So pretty much triggers the machine. It then opens and creates a new document. It will then use ChatGPT to create a personalized message overall based on the lead that was inputted. Then it's going to iterate through 2 different methods to create the email. So for us, we have 3 steps of email creation. One where it creates the email, another one where it analyzes if it is actually good, and another one where it removes anything that perhaps would have been bad based on the output of the second node. So it is a 3-step checkpoint, and this is how you create script writers that actually work. And then at the end, it just outputs back into the Google Doc. And the portion right here is running the exact same thing with different prompt. And then at the end is going to choose the best script. Again, AI is not good on its own. If you're only using one node, you cannot give that many instructions to AI. You should ideally split in batches the instructions that you give AI. So that is what we are effectively doing here, is one instruction at a time. It's only one function that is already very well fine-tuned. Again, if you want to know how to create this machine here, just let me know and I'll be happy to record a video showing you exactly how this is done. And by the way, this is outputting spin syntax scripts already, which if you want to know the prompt and you want to know how it works, just let me know. Let's get to the next one. So the next one is only talk to potential buyers, not bystanders. And this is ICP checking. I see a lot of companies run outbound, complain about the lead rates. And when I look at their lead list, it's just full of inaccurate data and companies that don't fit their ICPs and that will never have the means or the reason to buy from them. And so what you want to be doing is not waste your sales reps time. And you do that through an automation that validates every lead against your ICP with ruthless precision. So once again, the structure is going to be data collection, AI analysis, this time through JINA and ChatGPT 4.0, ICP validation, and integration. So I'm going to go on N8N, show you ours, and you'll see exactly why it's so important. All right, here we go. So first we have, again, the base. The base is where we gather the information. We check this information. If you skipped through the one where I show you how I create the first automation, then you're not going to understand how this works. Go back and watch that. I'm not going to explain it again. But pretty much I am just getting the data, error handling if there's any problems, notifying my user, checking if I have the input and don't have the output, then notifying my user once again, creating the new columns for the new output, and then running the machine gun step by step. The base is the exact same as the Waterfall enrichment base that I already showed you. So now I'm going to show you what is the operation side of things look like. So first, I'm going to have a webhook with each of the bullets coming through, and I'm going to check the content with JINA AI. JINA AI is a tool that will access the website of your prospect, get the markdown of the content, and output that extremely quickly and fairly cheap. So I strongly recommend doing that. If you cannot use JINA, I recommend that you use Bright Data. So sometimes JINA is going to fail at bringing you the data, and therefore we have a fallback using Bright Data, which is a proxy server that can fill out CAPTCHAs for you and bypass any security such as Cloudflare security and etc. and get you the content of the website and get you the markdown again. With the markdown that we get out of JINA or Bright Data, what we're going to be doing is first, if it doesn't load, we stop our bullet, right? We say, hey, this website doesn't exist, don't continue. Which, by the way, if you're getting data out of databases like Apollo, ZoomInfo, sometimes the companies don't even exist anymore, but they're still listed there. And it's fine. That's why you need an automation like this one to cross-check. So if that is the case, it just stops everything and will not continue. Now, if it was the case that the website was found, we have first one AI assistant from OpenAI that will interpret all of the data from the website and summarize the products or the services or the overall category of the website, depending if it's e-commerce or if it's a SaaS or if it's an agency. It's going to then summarize what the company does. Then we have one AI that is going to check if whatever the company does is within the ICP of what our company does. And notice that I'm using a message assistant and not a write-to model. And that's because I'm training my AI models to identify very clearly what each of my offers is looking for and to make sure that those companies are actually within ICP. If you want to see the prompts, give me the word in the chat. I'll record another video on that. Also, if you shoot me a DM on Instagram, I can send you the prompts that we use inside each of these. And so you can just replicate the system. The rest that we have in here are just error handlers inside N8N in case something failed or in case something didn't work. But same gist as the Waterfall enrichment. We want to run everything in our base, shoot bullets instead of big balls of gunpowder from our cannons, and then reprocess everything again and save it on Google Sheets once done. So this automation right here is, once again, checking if the website exists, checking if it exists, then if the content matches the ICP of what you want to target. And I actually have one more automation I'm going to show you that checks if the website can even receive emails. And that automation is this one right here, where it tries to open a website. If it works, it then checks for the MX record through a Google API. So again, if you want to know about this one, you know what to do. Let me know and I can show you. The next automation is making sure that every lead that you have in your list is legit, and that is people checking. You want to enrich and double check every contact before they even hit your CRM. Why does this matter? It's because more trust in the data equals better personalization plus better deliverability. Contacting the right people not only will get you more engagement and thus get you better deliverability, but also not piss off a bunch of people that don't need to be pissed off and not skew around what your lead rate actually looks like. So keep that in mind. And also it will cost a lot of wasted time on bad contacts. The process is very simple. Again, initial collection of data, gathering the data. Then we're going to process through a tool called LeadMagic, which I mentioned before in Waterfall Enrichment. And we use, in this case, the LinkedIn profile catcher from LeadMagic. Then we're going to do an AI analysis on the profile, validate, and connect everything back to our spreadsheet. So let me go ahead and show you that. And once again, we have our base where we're going to shoot everything from a machine gun and not a cannon. So this one I'm not going to present again to you. You already know, gathering the data, error handling, making sure it doesn't have an output and it has the input, creating the new columns and shooting it in batches, right? And notifying the front-end user through Postgres, which is thus an unlimited database where you can send updates to the user in real time without hitting any limits. Now, here's what it actually looks like to verify if people are within the company. So first, it all starts with bringing the data from our machine gun, connect it to LeadMagic to see if the LinkedIn profile first exists. And if it does exist, that it contains data. If it has an error, then we have an error handler. If not, then we'll check first if the person is retired. If it is retired, then we stop the bullet and we say, hey, remove this person from the list. If they're not retired, but their experience is empty, again, we remove them from the list. If it is not retired, then we check with AI. Again, ChatGPT, this time messaging a model because we don't need to train them on this. Checking with GPT if, based on the experience of the person, they're still in the company. If they are, then we check, is this the right title or a variation of the right title that I want to speak to? Because sometimes they will use different names and different ways to explain the same position title, and it is actually the right person. So I'm going to check that. If it is the right title, then the last thing I'm going to do is clean the position title so I can mention it in a Codemo script. So if it was CEO of company name, it's going to only keep CEO, right? Very simple. If any of these failed, it will then stop the bullet and say that it failed and remove the person from the lead list. This is, again, what it looks like. If you want to see the exact prompts, you know what to do. Either send me a DM or drop a comment down below, and I am happy to show you. Again, my goal in this video is just to give you an idea of what you need and what's required inside these, and then you can either delegate someone to build it for you, talk to me, or just ask for a video, and I'll show you how to build each of these. And that brings us to the last one, which is the research assistant that never sleeps. This is a tool, an automation to pull context and company info before your SDR even wakes up. So they start their day with each lead being already fully enriched. They know everything about them. So if they're cold calling or writing personalized lines, or if they are hopping on a sales call with them, they already know what to say and how to talk to them. So this pretty much turns your outbound into Harvard level account research, but wicked fast. And so you can do this with Make and Perplexity. Perplexity is another AI tool that you can use that does research very well and is able to search social profiles for you. So you can search Reddit, you can search podcasts, you can search YouTube. That's where the podcast would be hosted a lot of times. You can search posts that they made on different platforms and unify everything for you and output that inside your CRM every single day. Pro tip here, use Perplexity to grab recent relevant company insights that make intros 10x more relevant. And that's how you're going to improve your sales process a lot. Now, I hope that you're ready, and I'm sure with these automations in place, you will definitely be booking more meetings, making more money, and be overall less stressed. So drop a comment down below if you like this or if you want me to talk about anything here further, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good one.